Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange. If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park.
For the first time in Series 10, we'll be back in the same car as one of the previous events. Much like last time we saw the GT3R, it's at a long, fast track. But while Road America didn't have as many extended corners, Spa is chock full of them. Will the downforce of these machines make it tough to stay close to your rivals? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch the PCA Sim Racing Series 10 Challenge class live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Michael Johnson. Cavern Aubenon is on social media with Ryan Bauer producing while using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But before we get to the racing, Series 10 is brought to you by the Porsche Exchange, which has been a family owned and operated for over 40 years. Located on the North Shore of Chicago, the Porsche Exchange has grown to be the largest volume Porsche dealer in the entire Midwest. Along the way, they've won the Porsche Premier Dealership Award for many years in a row and has been chosen to be one of the few Porsche exclusive manufacturer dealerships in the entire country. Find out more at forporsche.com or follow them at Porsche Exchange on Instagram. Also, Six Sigma Sim Racing is proud to announce the Season 10 Clean Driver Award. One driver in each PCA Sim Racing class will win a Six Sigma Sim Racing $250 merchandise gift certificate. This goes to whoever earns the fewest incident points and license penalty points from their best 6 races. For more information, head to sixsigmasimracing.com. That's the number 6, sigmasimracing.com. All right, last race in the series for Spa-Francorchamps. This is one of the lower tiers, and they're up against one of the more fearsome tracks. So they're going to really have their hands full, Michael.
Yeah, hands full is kind of an understatement, but part of the reason this is, as frequent watchers will know, my favorite 7 kilometers on the planet, be that in the virtual world or the real world. I love this track. 19 turns, every one of them brings something. You see people flying through Pouhon and just that rear end doesn't quite catch. Or same thing happens in Blanchimont sometimes. The foot has got to be on the floor when you go through Eau Rouge, because you come out of La Source, head through there, you have to be just pegging it all the way down the Kemmel Straight, get into Les Combes, Malmedy. Every corner here, there is a story, and I think we're going to see some tonight, just like we have in all the other tiers.
No doubt. Now, they also have the championship to worry about, and up at the top of that one right now, it is James Legault, and not much by Arnie Claessen, as they have just 7 points between them. Then it's just a little bit more of a hop, but not much, down to David Palmer. Jonathan Reber very close behind him by a mere 11 points, and Doran is another 14 back. So there's your top 5. Separated by all of about 44 points between them. So that could easily change around. And we have to remember that there are multiple races in these events. So this could switch around in a couple different ways throughout this race. You could have a good first race and a bad second one, or vice versa. You need to be consistent throughout them, no doubt. So we are in the midst of qualifying, and this is a place where I think it's going to be important to try to be within those track boundaries. You could lose those laps, and you've only got 3 of them, Michael.
Yeah, it's going to be tight, too, because we're limited by time. There's only 10 minutes, and with these laps taking, about 2:20 each, it's going to be pretty tight to make 3 laps plus your out lap. So if you do the quick math in your head, which I think I've done correctly, that's not really enough time to make that last one unless you are absolutely hoofing it. So that second lap, you've really got to turn it loose, like we're watching David K. Palmer here in the Haribo car. I love this livery. I think it's my favorite of the whole series that everyone uses. But here he comes through, through Blanchimont, holding on to it. Looks a little bit on the safe side for me, but nice deep braking there. Could probably get a touch farther out, but he's maintaining really good control of the car, and he's not going too far out because he doesn't want to lose this lap because he got an incident point for going a little wide on one of the corners.
Now, if you haven't been watching the previous classes, remember, it's not the finish line that you saw him go by that normally you see in Formula One and things like that. It's down here. We're going to see him cross a little line on the way down the hill towards Eau Rouge, just there. And he does get his third lap in with about 13 seconds to spare, but he doesn't improve.
Yeah, that's tough to do. I got to give him credit for getting out quickly, so not messing around and trying to futz around with different knobs and things. He was like, it's time to go. It's green. Going to put the pedal to the metal and make it happen. So getting that done in that short amount of time, really well done.
Only about 4 cars made all 3. Scott Durham took the pole among them, though, as Mark Doran will start from second and Arnie Clayson will be third. Then it's Randy Lervold in 4th position, followed by Kevin Schultz, P5. Jonathan Reber will start from 6th. He'll have Andrew Smiley in 7th and David Palmer in 8th. And it's Casey McDonald starting P9. Outside of that row, it'll be Jack Stevenson in 10th.
In P11, we're going to have Alex Lidback and Robert Benson alongside. Pretty tight right there. Jeff Lashway and Robert Galais are going to take the next row. And then we've got Jeremy Main, Lisa Eskridge, Andy McCune, Johan Nye, Chris sorry, I keep messing up Johan's name. Chris Schuessler and Tim Schrock.
So 20-card field, and remember, this is just the first race that we've got here. Then they're going to have a second feature race that'll be 40 minutes. This one only 15 with no pit stop planned. It should be very, very quick. We're waiting on Lidback, and he's out there. So everyone is on the grid. The engines now start to rev for event 4. Waiting for it, and there it is. Green flag is out as they all accelerate away. A lot of wheel spin that I'm seeing and some smoke getting kicked up as drivers maybe not as used to these standing starts. Scott Durham is going to lead them up into Eau Rouge ahead of Doran. They quickly go very single file, and I'm not seeing any incidents, so it looks like we're clean.
Yeah, nice clean start. It is tough when you're not used to launching these cars. They don't leap off the line like you might expect, especially if you've got that traction control turned up a little bit too high. But this is a fixed setup, and no!
Both of our leaders, first and second, went off the course. Doran's in the wall. Durham somehow holds onto the lead, but just barely behind him. Lorvold's being challenged by Clayson. He dives the 242 down into Ravage, but Lorvold's going to take it deep. It's too deep as he goes to the outside. Clayson will take second place. Lots of changes here at the top of the field. I don't know how Scott Durham managed to hold on to that top spot.
Beautifully maintained, though, by Arnie there. He had the car in the right position. He really had to sacrifice a lot on that corner going into Bruxelles. You can't get outside, but if you've got that inside line and you can stick it, you can hold on to that position because the car that you're passing gets stuck out there in the marbles and way off camber, so it's really tough. But meanwhile, Scott Durham is trying to streak away out front here. Not too much difficulty for him. He's sitting there about a second ahead, it looks like, which is a lot of time given that little wobble that we saw up there.
Yeah, if that's his only mistake for the day, I'm sure he'll be glad that's it and he can move on from there. Sadly, Mark Doran hit the wall too hard. He's had to tow in the pit lane. He does have a spare car, but it's a long track, so it's going to be quite a wait before we see him again. Meanwhile, breaking into the bus stop chicane, I'd say it's a good thing that Durham did not lose that track position because, my goodness, he seems to have very good pace over everybody else right now.
He does. He's still holding on and actually opening up. He is about a second and a half out front of Arnie right behind him. And I wonder if Arnie may have picked up some damage somewhere. He's just trying to keep up and not able to stay there. But The nice part is he's still within a good draft distance. He's only about a second and a half, and this is where the draft really matters, because right behind him we've got Lervold, who wants to take that next step up on the podium.
Now, I mentioned Doran. This is his incident. Both of them just straight up out braking themselves. Wonder if Doran had target fixation. Saw him braking, said I'll do that too, and discovered that was a mistake. But big clout into the wall. Didn't want to drive it back onto the track, I suppose. Maybe just a little too damaged. Yeah, it looks like he almost tried to there for a second and then probably thought better of it. Also, we had an incident with Jeff Lashway coming out of Blanchimont. We saw this a lot yesterday with the sport class. He got loose through that left-hander and spun on his own. We saw probably about a dozen cars do the exact same thing as this, Michael. Something in the fixed setup in this car these 2 weeks just does not like Blanchimont.
Yeah, there's something in this fixed setup when you hit that inside curbing that makes the rear end hop around. Like you were saying, we've seen that all week long with all the different classes, all the way up to pro. Everybody was having difficulties when they just graze that inside curbing. I think you either need to leave it alone or clobber it.
And McDonald just took 6th place over Andrew Smiley. Nice move. He's up 3 positions, so he's making his way forward. And is he the hardest charger actually right now? No, we got a couple drivers who are up 5 right now down towards the bottom of the field. So there are a few that have made very good inroads, including Schussler here in the 61. And Johan Nye just in front of him also is up 5 positions. And then a little ways behind him, we can't see him in these shots, Tim Schrock. There he is right there. Is he going to lose one here? Nope. I thought maybe Schultz was going to try and overtake, but no dice.
Yeah, it was just a little look-see there. I don't think there was too much of a real attempt. It's just kind of, can I unsettle him, see what I can get away with, and then, yeah, drive on.
Speaking of driving on, look at Clayson. It looked like Lervold was putting him under pressure, but Arnie's responded. He's now about a second ahead of him, so great job here on the 242 to not give in to the pressure as he exits out of La Source and takes off down the road. Very few laps in this race, with it only being 15 minutes. They're only going to see maybe about 7 laps, and they're already on lap 3. You can see they're down 10 minutes left.
Yeah, these laps, there's a lot going on. There is no time to really rest. I know people look at this track and you see the Kemmel Straight and the Kemmel Bend there when you come out of, or come up to the top of the hill at Radillon. It's like, oh, well, it's just a long straightaway. There's so much going on here because there's a big chance for passing there with the draft. So there's no chance to rest, and it is a completely full 2 minutes when you get around the next time and try to turn another lap, hopefully a little faster or right at the same.
That's Benson in the bright blue machine fending off Lidback in the blue and white, which he did so successfully up into Lacombe. They've got Goulet in the yellow purple dot machine. Polka dot, purple dot, what am I saying? Polka dot machine there behind them, and trying to give chase, see if he can catch up to the pair of them as they plunge down the hill out of Speaker's Corner. Does look like Benson kind of has the measure of him for now as they spread apart. In fact, I'm a bit surprised at how much they are spreading apart this early in the race, considering there are a few people that are out of position.
A few out of position, yeah, but I want to point out Clayson just turned the fastest lap on that last lap. Now, that was only the second lap. They're on their 3rd now, and things will shake out a little bit from here. But really hoofing it. I think he's not settling for second after the aggressiveness and good technique of that pass we saw earlier. I think somebody's on the hunt right now because he's still holding on to about a 1.3 second gap in front of him. He's plenty close enough to take advantage of some draft and might be just trying to wait and pull that trigger at the end.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm pretty sure he's just trying to keep him in touch here. That's job 1. Then from there, if he can get close enough to attack, maybe he can try to snatch the win away. I have to remember, in terms of the championship, Arnie Clayson has a lot more on the line than Durham currently, because he's fighting against Legault. And actually, I need to see where Legault is. No, he's not here today. So this is basically Arnie needs to maximize this opportunity.
Indeed he does, and he is still close enough. Still like the same little 1.3 gap. I'm curious if this is Durham's doing or if Arnie is trying to just hold the gap where it is. I think he needs to open this up a little bit. He's looking at about almost 2 seconds, 1 3/4 to 2 seconds behind him, where Lervold is just kind of hovering. And behind that is a pretty big gap. We start looking at about 2 seconds or so, 2.5, for the next little grouping. But here we are on board with Lidback trying to get up inside there. That may have looked so to the untrained eye, or maybe it's exactly like that. It looked like he was trying to make a pass. I think he just wanted to get his nose out and get into some air where he can get a lot of downforce and make that braking happen.
Yeah, that's twice now he's kind of done that into that corner, so you might be right, and just a little bit too far back to try and get by Benson. I'm going to check with Smiley, though, who's a little bit ahead of them. But, boy, that was a little bit of a snap there coming down through Puhan. Not exactly the place you want a loose car.
Well, Dubnagosha, Puhan, same corner, different names. It's been giving that little weirdness as we've seen in all the other classes. And, ooh, just a little wide there. That was a bit of a wide run from Casey McDonald that we saw, and even wide there. Oh, this is going to get interesting. Going a little bit wider than he should have. It looks like Andrew Smiley's going to try to catch up here and probably make a pass. My guess would be somewhere down. Well, it's probably going to happen a little sooner than I think, taking a look at this.
Yeah, but he drops off before they get to Blanchimont. Guess he's just not willing to risk it there, so he falls back. And we'll have to try again a little bit later. So remember, this challenge class is essentially kind of one of your first steps in. Now, they have the entry class, which we usually cover the series finale for them. So we'll check in on them later on in Series 10 here. But these are the lowest class that we cover for the entire season. This is kind of where they're starting to really get their feet wet. And not all of these drivers are as familiar with some of the tricks, although sometimes you really find some gems that have some incredible promise and speed out there. Right now, Robert Glay trying to prove himself to be one of those. He's caught up to the back of Lidback, and while Alex has been threatening Benson, maybe Robert can do the same to him.
Yeah, this is a pretty tight little pack. This has stayed kind of like this, a little back and forth. But on your previous point, one thing the PCA does is anyone who comes in, they're going to start in that bottom class and then work their way through. Now, they're very good at working you through very quickly if you show promise, you have really good pace. But it helps to win a season or two and get yourself moved up that way, because I think a little continuity in the season sometimes helps. As we look at Lashway getting a little bit tricky here. Oh, this is a good positioning, though. I don't know if he's going to be able to pull this one off unless he can get past him. I think he is. Yeah, he's able to make that pass, and that puts, who was that? Schultz? No, that was Schrock down one more position. He was one of our hard chargers, and woo, look at that, trying to just cut off the nose.
Yeah, I was just going to say that was awful brave of him to chop down, but he trusted Schrock, and they didn't come together through Malmedy. Meanwhile, Andrew Smiley, we were watching him not that long ago, still with Casey McDonald in front of him. This is for the 6th position that these two are battling. I almost wonder if they don't want to fight each other too hard, because that's David Palmer and your favorite machine there up in front of them. They could run him down. They're close enough.
I think if they did a little leapfrog working together, they would have an opportunity. But as soon as they start to battle, the Haribo machine's going to pull away.
In fact, I think they're going to get 2 to go when they cross the line here, because Durham is coming up to La Source as we watch this pair battling for 6 down into the bus stop, and nobody's able to try and go side by side that time. There's Durham on your screen, and yes, he is going to cross the line with enough to get the 2 to go signal here in our sprint race. Oh, and sad news for Gallet. He is off the course in Blanchimont, the latest victim of that fearsome fast corner, and for the umpteenth time, it's the same deal. The rear end comes out from around.
Yeah, it's frustrating because you think you hit it exactly the same as you did last time. It does not take too much of a whole lot of that curbing on the inside there to just upset that rear end a little bit and let it come sliding around. And this looks like a replay, except the other way around.
It's live, and that's Palmer taking the fourth position away from Reber, and that is going to check them up a little bit into McDonald and Smiley. So what have we got going on here? This is going to be fun. Don't need to go to it. Jack Stevenson had a pretty big hit through Eau Rouge, and I think that might be race over for the 116. Meanwhile, this fight for the fourth position heating up, and they're catching up to a lapped car. McCune doing the right thing, letting them by.
Yeah, doing the right thing. Now, one thing I'm concerned about, the PCA stewards do not like it when those cars start blinking in and out like that. So we're watching Jonathan Reber, who has had some really good finishes, but his internet connection is not holding up for him, and they could ask him to bounce out, because if you are not maintaining your internet connection, it can really mess up the other cars on track.
Yeah, haven't seen anything from them yet. In fact, incredibly, we haven't seen a single black flag from the stewards yet in this race. So this has been fantastically clean. I say that knowing that I've probably just cursed myself, but in the background there, McDonald's had a run from Smiley to worry about, but then exited out of Stavelo or Curva Paul Frere much, much faster. Meanwhile, this looks closer than it was before, or is it? No, Arnie hasn't.
About a second and a half.
Down. Yeah.
It's time for Arnie to put on those afterburners. If he's going to catch Scott Durham, he needs to do it now. This is the last lap. And 1.2 seconds off of him. It looks like Durham got a little better exit there. He's opened up a couple of tenths. So, Arnie, if you were going to do it, you might have missed your chance. You need Scott Durham to make a mistake.
Absolutely. And right now, Scott Durham looks pretty comfortable. It looks like he's got this one under control. He did make a hiccup earlier, and since then it seems like he is kind of tamped down on that sort of situation and hasn't made the same mistake twice. What about Smiley once again on McDonald? This is a good run, and he's going to get a nice tow. I don't know if there's enough straightaway, though.
There's not. They're only at about 3/10 now. He would have to be at 2 or less at that point when you get to the Kemmel Bend. So Kemmel Straight, everybody knows. There is that little kink in there. That's the Kemmel Bend or the Kemmel Curve. And when you go through that, you've got to be at about a quarter second or less, let's call it.
Yeah, definitely wasn't that close. So as they head down the hill now, they still remain at least within striking distance. Speaking of, and I didn't mean literally striking distance. Unfortunately, that might be a penalty right there.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call that one as a penalty. I'm pretty sure the stewards are going to look dimly upon that one. That was a little overzealous. That was a lot overzealous to get the nose up in there like that.
Yeah, that corner can see passes, but he did not have the presentation. This has been quite the presentation from Durham, just basically putting on a clinic ever since he had that one off at the very start of the race. Gathered it up, wiped off his embarrassment, and in just a few corners, he's going to get himself a sprint win. Now, he missed the first 2 races at Road America and VIR, came in with not that great of a performance at Suzuka, but from what we're seeing from this 83 here today, I'd say he's got his stuff together now.
Yeah, he's looking really good. Just doing a perfect race. Little cold tire incident at the beginning, but hey, it got rid of his main rival.
And fortunately, had a 5th place finish and a 24th place finish back at Suzuka. The top 5 and well down the orders, not going to cut the mustard. This one will, as he wins the sprint race here at Spa. Clayson's going to follow him home for a podium, and Lervold got dropped at the end as he will finish in 3rd. Big problems. Who is this there towards the back?
Trying to take a look. That's going to be my favorite, the Haribo card. That's going to be David Palmer. What's going on there?
Yeah, that not sure what happened, but I think that was up through Eau Rouge. Or that may have been the finish. I think he may be done with the race, actually, so I think we're good. but definitely caught me off guard seeing him bounce around. Thought maybe some of the back markers had issues at the end, as Goulet has had his own issues. We'll see if he can hold on just a little bit longer, because Lashway is going to spin up the tires, and that's going to end that battle as Robert will finish in 12th. And poor Andrew Smiley has been black flagged for his contact not long ago. So a bit of a disappointing end for him, as it looks like he's even coming into pit lane to try to serve that penalty, which I believe will end our drivers. No, it looks like we do have Tim Schrock. And did Eskridge, did Lisa finish on the lead lap?
I think she's still trying to make a lap here.
Yeah, I think she did. So it looks like Durham did not overtake her, and she'll swing back around and at least finish on the lead lap at this very long track. So will Doran here in 16th, who started from a second place, but he didn't have the luck of Durham, and he ran into the wall when he went wide at Lacombe. So he has suffered from that one, and that's going to start him way back in the feature. Thankfully, you can make passes here. Thankfully, Lisa Eskridge can too. She, however, is going to be finishing what looks like 17th, as Johan Nye didn't get to complete the last lap.
Yeah, it looks like Johan was, I think, part of an incident, but yeah, Lisa Eskridge picking up a position there. I know it doesn't look like it, but sometimes the easiest passes to make are the ones where someone else goes off or is in the pits.
I was just saying that earlier today. If you keep it on the black stuff, that's sometimes half the battle. So might not be stellar, but 17th is only one down from where she started. Results then see Scott Durham with the win and Clayson taking second. Lervold finishing out your podium. David Palmer comes home in fourth position, just ahead of Jonathan Reber to get a top five. Robert Benson was sixth and Casey McDonald seventh. And it's Alex Lidback with some fierce fighting here today, taking eighth. Jeremy Main was ninth, and Kevin Schultz rounds out your top 10.
Chris Schussler brings up the 11 alongside Robert Goulet. Jeff Lashway, we were watching that right there at the end. There's Tim Schrock in 14th. Mark Doran, Andrew Smiley, Lisa Eskridge, we watched right there at the end. Then one lap down, Johan Nye, Jack Stevenson, and Andy McCoon.
All right, so they get a little bit of a warm-up here, about 5 minutes. I mean, that's not even really going to be about a lap and a half around here, but it's time if they really feel like they need the practice. And they'll get back into the feature race. 40 minutes now. Remember, the grid will be their finishing order from the previous race, and they will have a pit stop for this one for fuel. Not anticipating tires. Tires were a talking point in the other races, but those were 60 minutes. This is only 40 minutes. I can't imagine that's going to be that sacrificing that time is going to make up enough in only a 40-minute race, Michael.
With a 40-minute race, you really don't have, even 60 minutes, it's a tough call because you're not really burning the tires up that much. I did an endurance race in this car here and found that, yeah, if I was running 60 minutes on a set of tires, I didn't really slow down at all. But right after that, about 65, 68 minutes, it started to fall off. So I don't see anybody even thinking about taking tires because getting out there on cold tires, well, we saw lap one of that first heat.
Yeah, that I got to think that was a hard lesson, especially for Jeremy Main there, Michael, because yeah, Durham got away with it, but for Main, surely he's going to remember that one and maybe just give it a little bit more space when he breaks on that first lap down into Lacombe.
Oh, for certain. And I think one thing you're going to see people doing here in this warm-up is practicing their entry to the pit. You got to crash the cone. You got to come up there as hot as you can and brake at that last possible moment, because you're not only timed cone to cone, but the regular time of the race is still running. So if you just kind of lollygag up to the cone, well, if you notice the F1 race this past weekend, it was kind of interesting how we saw one driver kind of pull side by side with another driver to get into the pits because one driver was kind of lollygagging. So you really want to crash that cone hard. You want to get in there as fast as you can and then have your cone to cone time be as short as you possibly can.
I honestly thought of you when I saw that moment. Yeah, drivers have to make the best of it. And that's why this is such a great training ground, is drivers can learn those things here in the challenge class as they work up. By the time if they make it to the pros, you better know how to charge those cones, because those guys use everything. And if you give up just a few tenths in the race, that can be the difference between first and second sometimes. So it's the last minute and a half ticks down on this one. It's going to be a hot one, that's for sure. I've been checking it out, the temperature. It was at 98 Fahrenheit for the last race. It's all the way up to 100 Fahrenheit now during this warm-up. So on top of the difficulties of this track and this setup combined, you're dealing with what seems to be a rather slick track.
Yeah, once you get above about 95 Fahrenheit for your track temperature, this place gets greasy. There's just not a lot of rubber down because it's such a long track and you don't get a lot of laps. And it's the heat just starts to make it a little wiggly everywhere you go. And I'm sure that is also contributing to those difficulties we're seeing at Pouhon and at Blanchimont.
No doubt. So we let that clock tick down to 0 here in just a second, and then we will grid up for another standing start. Have to do more than twice as long of a race for this one. So hopefully you've got this figured out from here. If not, maybe we'll see some try like Lisa Eskridge did and just kind of hold on to the track itself, try not to go off course, and stick with it so that you can pick up some places as the race goes on. So we head on over to the race session here for race number 4 of Series 10 in the PCA Sim Racing Series. And it looks like they are sent over to that one now. So waiting for my grid to populate. And it looks like Scott Durham, as we said, going to be on the pole, Clayson in second. Then it's Lervold third and Palmer fourth. Jonathan Reber P5, Benson sixth, and McDonald in seventh. Then it's Lidback starting eighth in this one. Jeremy Main ninth, and Kevin Schultz in 10th.
On the next row is going to be Schussler and Goulet. Alongside, on the next row, we got Lashway and Schrock. Doran Smiley and then Lisa Eskridge going to fill out 17th. 18th will be Johan Nye. Jack Stevenson and Andy McCune will round out the 20-car field.
Main's the last one that needs to get out there, and they're all ready to go now as they look for the green flag. The engines start to rev. Lights are up, and the green flag is out. Durham not looking all that strong off the line. Neither is Clayson as Lervold approaches, but he's got no place to go. He's boxed in, and you don't want to be going side by side up through Eau Rouge. Everybody knows that at this point, so they try and sort themselves out as they crest the hill over Radion and now go up the Kimmel Straight. Durham is up ahead of Clayson, but last time he went too far into Lacombe. Where is he going to be this time? Can he hit his brake marker, or will he not learn his lesson? He's going to be clean into the corner.
Yeah, we got a little activity a little farther back, trying to make some passes a little bit wide going through Lacombe. But once again, that's a very familiar sight from the last race. That's going to be Scott Durham heading down, trying to pull away. But in P3, Randy Lervold, look at that, get that nose up in there, makes a little bit better run through Bruxelles, and then coming through No Name, holding on to the back end of Clayson.
I was wrong. Doran had a little bit of an off going deep into Lacombe for a second time now, but this one wasn't as bad. I'll give him credit. Andy was side by side with Goulet, so probably a little bit more difficult trying to hit your braking, knowing that you're having to give space to that car on the inside, as Durham leads by about a second over Clayson. Lervold still in third, so looking very familiar to last race. Can Palmer keep up with them? That's the big question mark in this one, because he lost touch last time and had a heap of cars behind him. Surely he's going to want to try and push now that he has nobody between himself and those three to try and cling to that slipstream.
Now, an interesting thing I noted there is that last shot, or two shots back, that we had when we saw the cars from behind running wide, using every bit of the track. It was like the first, I want to say, back to about Reber, maybe maybe Benson. But after that, everybody was failing to use that extra track space that you have out there. There's not a wall there. If you are still on track, you're good. You should be using that. And I think that's really what's separating this field and letting that top group just kind of pull away from everybody else.
Yeah, that's a good point. You got to learn where the limits are, and this is a tricky one for that because you do have incident limits, and they don't want to go over it, but you got to get close to find that speed as they exit now out of La Source. For a while, I was kind of watching Benson and McDonald because they were close in a battle, but they've separated. And there you see our leaders crossing the line for the first time in anger. Durham about 1.1 seconds over Clayson. Now we're going to watch Doran on a recovery drive. He's still stuck behind Goulet. He's up one position as Mark Doran. You'd like to make that two. Well, mega running ahead of him. A big wreck for Chris Schuessler.
And it looks like he was reacting, maybe, I'm guessing there was a yellow flag there. So I think while Doran was trying to make the run through there, Schrock was backing out of it just a bit. And that kind of made both of them check up. No passing under yellow, even in the sim world. So with that wreck up ahead, that made it difficult for Doran to be able to try to continue that run and make it. But right now, look how close he's getting. Is he going to be able to get a nose in? Probably not just yet. But he is putting some serious pressure on him. He is just right up there, pushing, trying to get up underneath that wing. We may see something here going down into Double Gauche.
Also, Jeremy Main and Andrew Smiley also had separate incidents that wrecked in the same corner at the same time through Eau Rouge up over Radion. So it looks like that is causing troubles early on in this race. Clayson within 0.6 of a second now, looking very fast. He's trying to reel him back in. Does he have something more for him in this longer race now?
Well, with the track temperature heating up, we're up to 101 Fahrenheit now. It was 95, I believe, when we started the last race. Maybe Arnie is just a little bit better when the car has a little slide to it. I know some people like the car to slide a bit. Others want it to just stick like glue. So maybe this is just playing to his strengths.
They switch now back onto the pit straight, the new pit straight. Clayson staying within about 0.8 of a second, not quite as close as he was before. Lervold still about 1.5 seconds behind them as well. But Arnie's making a race out of this. I like what I'm seeing. This could be thrilling down to the end because I thought maybe Durham just would be able to blast away from everybody with the pace that he showed there in the sprint. Not so as they cross the line. And this lap, Durham with a 20.6, Clayson with a 20.2. However, Clayson did not take the fastest lap because he had an off track somewhere in there, so that discounted it for that.
Yeah, that's frustrating, but easy to do on this track, especially if you're doing what I was just talking about a few moments ago, where you're using every last millimeter of track. But that it looks like he's down to about 0.5 seconds now. This is some good driving from Arnie. He's, I think, biding his time just a little bit. He's trying to push up, give a little bit of a notice that, hey, look, last race, I let you get out that far. Now I'm actually going to push a little pressure on here and see what happens. And I think it could be working because he really is turning some burning fast laps.
Interesting, worth noting that Clayson has not had either of his first laps counted because I don't see any best lap under his name, but it's only been 2 completed laps. I'm not sure that this one will count either because it did look like he went wide down through Speaker's Corner. So how long can he keep this up? Well, the answer to that, honestly, is 17 times because if he goes off like that 17 times, he's heading through the pits an extra time.
Yeah, that is one thing you got to watch out for. Now, for those people who are used to regular old iRacing races, you don't want to clock those things. You do not want to get all those incident points because it counts against your safety rating. But in races like PCA and other leagues, they don't count against your safety rating on iRacing at all. So if you've got 17, use 16. And how many laps are we going to have here? About 18. So you get about 1 per lap before you get into real trouble.
Yeah, I'd say I'd still be a little bit nervous if it comes down to 16 on that last lap because it's going to be so easy to go over it. But as they fly down the front stretch here. He's within about 9/10 of a second. He hasn't lost time, but he also hasn't gained any. Lervold has, though. Look at that gap. It's 2.1 seconds now that he is behind Clayson, about 3 seconds behind Durham. Oh, and somebody has spun. That is Jeff Lashaway, who's had a big incident coming out of the bus stop.
Yeah, that was a rough one. That's another one of those spots where we've been seeing cars kind of start to lose that rear end. And now that I don't think is this setup specific.
Oh, that's Lervold.
Oh, Lervold goes around.
Oh, no.
Oh, and he's lost his nose, hasn't he?
I think it's still there, but it looks pretty dented. No, you're right. He has lost it. So
yeah, that's going to take a lot of that nose arrow away and just be a big giant brick to push through. Let's take a look at the replay.
Looks like another problem with Radion because he was up there. See if was it Eau Rouge? No, he was a little wide. It started
Radion
there, yeah, and just finished it up at the top.
Yeah, the top of Radion just got a little bit wide. It happens. It's rough, but you've got to get your timing. And when I'm working with people on that particular corner, I tell them, pick your tree. I'm not going to tell you which tree to pick because you have to pick the one that works for you. But when you're coming up through there, you can't see where the road is, but you can see the top of all those trees, and you pick the one you want or the gap between a couple of them that you want, and you aim straight for it, and you'll be fine every time.
Well, this means that David Palmer is now up into P3. He's on the podium, but he's behind the leader by about 4 seconds, so doesn't seem like he's going to give much of a hassle, at least as it sits now. We could have some changes as we got a problem for Benson. Whoa, and the 10, who comes back on track in Galay. Oh, and Benson has trouble avoiding him as well. Just a cacophony of errors there coming down out of Fanyes and into Stavelo that has sent them all off the course. And I think there was yet another problem where it looks like Lashaway got a piece of Benson again.
Yeah, but take a look at this. Let's get back up to the front here. Arnie's getting pretty close here. Last time he was about 8 or 9/10. He was down to 5 that time, and he has a better braking field going into that corner, into La Source. But now he is pretty close. This time only 6/10, and he's got a great opportunity to really close this up. I think he's bringing the fight to him this time.
Oof. And we had some more incidents towards the back. Unfortunately, not sure if we'll see replays of that, but cars running into one another there with Galay once again. I fear we may see some more black flags on this one. As we come down to Lacombe, Clayson even closer, still hasn't had a clean lap, and he's on lap 5 now. He was about 2/10 quicker that last time through. He's continuing to cut in, but he is going to have to get a clean one eventually, or else he will run out.
Yeah, you only get about 1 per lap that you'll get away with. And if you have any side-by-side contact, that's going to be 2. If you have a full-on contact, that's going to be 4. So you really got to be careful, and you got to use them wisely. This time, he's sticking pretty close. He's at about 3/10 to 3.5. This is a lot closer than he has been. This is going to set up a great opportunity once they go through, coming up probably down into the bus stop.
Yeah, that's going to be a great space for it, but will he be close enough? Because he's back to about 5/10 behind now. He'll need to be within about 2/10 if he wants a realistic shot at it. And unless he gets a major run, I'm not sure if he's going to be there. He is down about 4/10. He is gaining. The slipstream's working very well for the 242. But the dirty air hits him through Blanchimont, and it's back up to 6/10. And it's how it was before. So
I think he backed out of that. I honestly think he backed out of that because he was closing up, and then he really pulled off of that. Oh, did he get a corner cut there?
I just checked. I didn't see one unless he served it very, very quickly. Let me double check that one. I'll go back and watch it. No, he shouldn't have had a corner cut from that. He wasn't too far inside. I think that was just spun tires. I think he just gassed it a little bit too hard out of that chicane and had to catch it back up. But that cost him. It's back up to 8/10 as we now check in with Jack Stevenson fighting with Lisa Eskridge. And in fact, that's for position. That's Johan Nye. So they're all fighting for P12.
Ooh, it looks like Eskridge. Oh, no, she was doing all right. She actually had a very good braking position there. Oh, and off in the background there, that was, I wanted to say Andy McCune. So McCune not navigating that corner well. Look at Eskridge, though. She's getting a little aggressive going up through here. This is some good movement. I think she could get this position from Nye.
Yeah, she's up 4. Nye is up 6. They're both making great progress. Not as good as Doran, who I think actually just took 7th place away. So he's kind of been quietly chipping through the fields, which is good to see because we know he definitely has the pace to be farther up than that. Tim Schrock not going to fight it. He gives the spot up to Nye. Is he also going to be slow to Eskridge? Ooh, no, Eskridge is going to get held up. And here comes Stevenson. He's got a full head of steam. Does he have enough space? They bang doors a little bit. Thankfully, they're going to get away with it, but they both lost speed with that little melee.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of positioning. Interesting going on here. Oh, Schrock getting up into door-to-door action there. That was... I think that might be looked at by the stewards a little more closely. That was an interesting kind of defensive move there.
Yeah, I can't tell if it's defensive or if he just wasn't aware the car was going to be there or what, but he moved awful late. I'm so glad they all got away with it because along the Kemmel Straight, they're going mighty fast. If they would have tipped each other around, it would not be a small accident.
Yeah, now we're taking a look here. This is Durham. He is, going to get kind of jammed up because we have, that's going to be Goulet right in front of him. Goulet went wide on the chicane there right at the end. Now as we head up to La Source, is Goulet going to let these folks by? Because we've got our leader, our P1 and P2 right there, and that's going to be wide. I think that's the first time I've seen any kind of little chink in the armor from Scott Durham. Clausen has been doing a couple of those, and Clausen's going to get jammed up here. Good timing. I don't know if that was on purpose, but we're just going to go ahead and say it was and give Scott Durham props for that beautifully timed pick.
Yeah, nicely done. And Clausen has had a clean lap by now, a 228.8 that he put down. Oh, did he have a slowdown penalty?
He must have, because he gave up a lot of time there. He was making a great run up onto Goulet, but then he was just sticking side by side. I think the counter started going up, and he got just a little nervous that he wasn't going to be able to run it off. But from experience, having made that exact same mistake many times in iRacing, you can bleed that off in a GT3 as you go into the braking zone right there at the end of the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was doing, just kind of giving some of that away, and that cost him dearly. He's now 3 seconds behind Durham. But what about McDonald, who is currently in the top 5? He's got Schultz chasing him, but he's way far back, and he's got Reber in front by about a second. Now, that is not Schultz that you see behind him. That's a lapped car. That's Jeremy Main that's trying to keep up with him currently. And the number 17, he's a lap down. He had his issues at the start. Also, Robert Benson was given a black flag for careless driving, unfortunately. So he's going to have to go in and serve that one.
Yeah, it looks like back up front. So we'll stay on here with Mark Doran. This is kind of the closest thing we've got going on. But back up front, that pick that we saw Durham make has opened that gap up to 3 seconds. But right now we're looking at Mark Doran trying to catch up to Kevin Schultz. He has been doing pretty well. Last lap through, looks like he was about 0.8 faster. So I think Doran has a reasonable chance to catch up to Schultz and maybe a little bit of action when we go through the pit stop rotation.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll see what that holds as we come down into the braking zone. Doran looking to try and overtake on Schultz here probably soon. Let's see, what's the quickest lap look like for Doran? 20.623. Is that
was his last lap? Yeah, that was his very last lap. I think that's the fastest of the race.
Fastest race. That's what I was getting at there. Yeah, I was like, wow, because I was kind of curious what his pace is in comparison. It's not by a lot, mind you. It's like literally a thousandth or two faster than Durham, but clearly he's got something here. It's just unfortunate that he had to start as far back as he is, because he's already 21 seconds behind.
Yeah, it would take a long time at a thousandth of a second difference to make that up, I think. A little bit of help from a draft here, so maybe that was that thousandth of a second to get there. But, you know, he's absolutely closed this up. This is Doran on Schultz, and that's the one that was right about a second. He's down to 4/10. He's really closing it up quick.
Looks like Lidback, I think, is going to be our first taker for an official stop here. A planned one in the number 10. So he comes down into the lane to take his service. Benson's also serving his penalty. So we watch the fight for the 6th position. Doran and Schultz still taking a little bit of a wide run, some of these drivers, and a few places to push the track as far as they can to the edges of the boundaries, but it's not enough to get him onto the rear bumper of Kevin. And he'll have to try and work that a little bit harder to be able to try and make this move. Does seem like he's not moving as quickly now that he's reached the top part of the field.
Yeah, it gets challenging the more you move up. I mean, those passes at the back of the field, while not easy, and that's going to make it easy, except, interesting return. I don't think the stewards are going to look poorly on that, though, because that was a decent recovery. There was no contact. So good holding of the position by Kevin Schultz with that big mistake not costing him too much.
Well, and he was still at speed and he was visible. So, yeah, he came back as quickly as he could. I don't think that was anything untoward if it was me. But Doran's probably unhappy that he was not able to take that spot after he sees that car go 4 wheels into the dirt. But that is an incident that counts towards Kevin Schultz's tally. So he has one more now that's putting him closer to a potential black flag, and he can't do that too much. So setting back up, trying to see if he can gather up Kevin and make a pass, who's a little bit wide there at the apex of La Source. Doesn't hurt him too badly. Doran's not going to be able to pass him now. We hit the halfway mark at 20 minutes to go.
Yeah, watching Doran from on board there, it's pretty clear he is experiencing some understeer. He's having to turn that wheel so far, but he's got a really good run as they come around Kemmel down the rest of the way of the Kemmel straight. He's going to stick his nose out right there, then under braking. Hopefully he's got the front tires to hold on to that. Yep, right up on the curbing there, brings it back around, and we've got a car spun around, and that looks like that's going to be Lisa Eskridge.
It was indeed. She's already a lap down, so she's not trying to rush back onto the track. I think Kevin Schultz maybe facilitated that pass a little bit. Looked like he didn't want to fight that hard, knowing that's a faster car. And Durham, also a much faster car. Although, Clayson's cut this down. It's down to only 2 seconds. Let's see, last lap at 20.685. Durham, 20.8. So, yeah, 0.2 quicker there for the 242 machine. He's still kind of reeling him back in whenever he can at this stage. Also, a little bit of housekeeping. Robert Goulet, unfortunately, going to be given a black flag. So he'll have to serve his penalty now from earlier on when he had some contact.
Yeah, and right here we're looking at Jack Stevenson on Johan Nye. This is pretty tight, down to about a half a second here, going through Bruxelles. Now that's I love that corner. It's kind of downhill and around. It's 180 degrees. It's super tight, but you can really make up some time when you nail it. If you really work on the mechanical grip of your car, and I'm talking the real life setups here. All these folks here are on a fixed setup. But if you really work on that mechanical setup, you can make up so much time through that corner on the people around you, or open up a really good gap to whoever it is chasing you.
Right now, as they work their way through Fagnes, Nye holding his measure, trying to keep Stevenson behind him. Find it interesting that the only car left with 0X, I'm understanding, is David Palmer. So appropriately, the Haribo car is saving his sweets for later.
Yes, he is. They say, I'll translate it from German, is that Haribo makes children happy, and also the adults. Haribo is making that adult very happy.
Yeah, he's running a great race there in third as Casey McDonald going to take a pit stop now. Scheduled stop for the number 18. And he should run back out and try to get back on it. Lidback's running in 13th. He's the only other one that's taken a scheduled stop as far as I can tell, and be able to get to the end from here. So we'll see where McDonald cycles back out in regards to him. We probably have a couple more laps, maybe 2 or 3 more laps before we see most every car needing to pit in for fuel.
Yeah, and meanwhile, we've got out front, that gap has not closed down a whole lot. But you were just talking about Lidback. He is running up on Schrock right now. And, that's a good little push. Andrew Smiley getting taken right there. That was Schussler going around. That was, no, that wasn't Schussler. That was going around Maine, I think.
No, that was Schussler. He was trying to go to the inside, and Schussler shut him down, although he used a lot of the runoff on the exit of Blanchimont to kind of save him a little bit there. But like I said, if you've got the incidents, use them up, especially if it involves trying to keep your car from becoming a wadded up mess.
Yeah, the interesting line there, probably going into the pits right now. That's a good opportunity to take that dive down into the pits. And we are back at our leader, Scott Durham, coming on the new pit straight, setting out to that hard left side. Is he going to try to make a pit stop this time? It looks like Arnie is still holding on right at 2 seconds. Good throttle down, going all the way out to the outside, so not going to pit this time. And Arnie is not close enough to get any advantage from a draft.
In fact, he lost a bit on that corner exit, did Clayson. So that was unexpected. Didn't look terribly bad. Not sure if he had some sort of slowdown to serve or what, but it went from 1.9 seconds to now about 2.5. No, speaking of a slowdown, it's Durham that got it. He's having to serve a penalty here, and it's still on. He must have cut a major part of Eau Rouge, and what was a massive gap before has disappeared in a blink of an eye.
Easy to do there. Like I said, pick your tree. You've got to pick it, and you've got to hit it exactly the same every time. I think he just didn't have his tree picked properly, or he picked the wrong one, going a little bit wide around Bussell there, but both of them making kind of that same mistake. We're down still right at a second, though. Oh, and it looks like Arnie's going to spin it around going through No Name.
Got a little too excited for himself, and he backs it into the other one. Oh, the front and the back taking severe damage. Well, if he wasn't planning on pitting this time, now he is.
Oh, for sure. And I think that might have been a little bit of frustration there because he had come up so close, but now he's got major damage front and rear because he went straight in on the nose, and that is going to put Palmer in a really good position to close this up pretty quickly. I think if Clausen does the right thing, it's going to be dive into the pits very quickly and get that spare car.
Absolutely. So Palmer rocking up behind him. Could easily overtake him depending on how slow he is in a straight line. Granted, they're separated by Benson, who is a lapped car. And while Durham maybe have picked the wrong tree, Arnie Clayson apparently picked the Charlie Brown tree out there and has paid dearly for it. So coming up into Blanchimont, it's a little slow, but I don't think Palmer's quite close enough. Oh no, Palmer's gonna lose it. Palmer coming out of it. He spins it around, keep it out of the wall. No, he bangs it into it.
Yeah, it's that, just that little bit of curbing on the inside there keeps catching people. Sometimes it feels like, I got it last time, I'll get it this time. Nope, but hey, speaking of not getting it last time or this time, looks like Scott Durham's going to go for another lap.
Running that thing dry, and Clayson, yep, I expected he was going to be coming in. Reber inherits third place. He's going to stay out, though. That's going to put him into second. Palmer, I expect, will probably also pit, although he did take some good damage. He's got a black and orange flag. He has to pit in.
Yeah, look at that rear wing. That's in pretty bad shape. He's going to have to come in for sure. Makes a nice run right up to the line, and now he's going to just trundle down pit lane at right on the pit limiter and get that spare car while he gets a little fuel to make it to the end of the race.
highest driver to have pitted right now is Mark Doran. He pitted last lap. 46 is in 8th position. Don't think he's going to be close to Clayson and Palmer here, although they both had mistakes, so you never know. Actually, yeah, he might be close to Palmer now, because Palmer's just finishing his up 11, 12, 13 seconds. A bit of a slow stop. Palmer on the loud pedal, but he's going to be slow up the Kemmel straight. Doran's just coming into Eau Rouge now. We're going to ride on board.
Yeah, here we are on board with Doran, trying to see if he's going to make it up through here. That's Clausen on the right side coming out. Now that blend line there, that is sacred space. If there's nobody coming out, take it. But if there's somebody coming out, you have to respect the blend line, which he did, and that's going to put him pretty close. I think that's a good recovery for Palmer after that incident.
So from a potential second to Palmer now in 6th behind Doran. Granted, they still need a couple cars that need to make pit stops. But Doran, man, fantastic run here. Curious exactly where he's going to come out, because he's at least 5th place right now. Is he maybe going to get a podium out of this?
This is looking like a potential podium because he's already pit and he is currently in P5. Meanwhile, we've got Scott Durham making it through. I always call it the final corner. It's not in this particular configuration. Coming up to La Source, stuck behind. It looks like that's going to be Tim Schrock going up into it, and it looks like Schrock's going to hold to the right side. Is he going to? Nope.
Yeah, he's pitting.
Oh, there we go. Yep, puts the nose in, gets around Tim Schrock, and makes the dive into the pits. Hopefully that didn't slow him down too much if you are a Scott Durham fan. But Reber still about 6 seconds off of him. Also going to make that dive down into the pits. Here we are back with Arnie Clausen. Arnie is, he has pit, and he is going to kind of be our default leader at this point, depending on how fast Scott is able to get out of the pit lane.
I don't think Scott's really under threat here, because both of his rivals spun behind him just as they came into pit. And yeah, Durham is in and out easily. Reber is now in. Lervold's pitting. And who is going to wind up in second then? I think
looks like
Clayson.
Yeah, I know
Reber is coming out.
Oh, Reber's going to make it out. I think this is going to be tight. So Clayson just got past Lervold, coming up here through. He's got a little bit of a draft too. Where is his rival? That's still going to be about 2.5 seconds ahead of him. So it looks like he was able to hold on to that position. That's going to keep Reber in P2.
But the bad news is I've been seeing some more blinking from the 147. So that's the last thing he wanted, is that could end his race prematurely if the stewards decide that's unsafe and they park him. And that would hand second right back to Clayson. Doran is in 4th, but he's 11 seconds off Clayson. So he could use Jonathan Reber being parked right now, because that would promote him into a podium spot.
Yeah, that's another way to make up positions if you've got somebody gets a penalty in front of you and gets DQ'd. So not the greatest way, but you know, nobody is going to look at the score sheet at the end and go, oh, well, you were 4th, but yeah, they counted it 3rd. No, it counts as a 3rd, so you hold on to it every time.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie in the end, and looks like we've had our last driver take their stop, Johan Nye. So everybody's done now as we've hit the final quarter of this race. And Durham leads by about 13 seconds over Reber, with Clayson not far behind him, trying to decide those next 2 steps on the podium, and Doran having to play catch-up after he had a bad first race, but doing an admirable job recovering up towards the front of the field. And I think Kevin Schultz just overtook
McDonald. He did,
6.
yeah. It was a tight little pass. I'd love to see a replay of that if we get an opportunity, because it was a good run that he was making up in there. And wow, he just got his nose up. Let's take a look here. This is going to be Kevin Schultz in that green car, the number 42. Gets a beautiful run right here. Look how close. He is under that wing. He psychs him out, makes him defend to that left side, gets right up underneath him, fully overtake. Yeah, I think that's a good overtake there.
Yeah, he was alongside. Casey didn't listen to the car right there, and unfortunately banged into the side of him. Fortunately, though, they both are able to keep running. Now, Lervold back there in that red machine is for position, so he's got to watch out because he might have to fight for 7th as well. There you can see it now as he had to just pass by Gallet, who is a lap down, so not in this fight, but he's gotten through, and he sees his rival directly in front of him.
Yeah, and I think Lervold had a little bit of a lift going on there, didn't want to make the pass before he got to Eau Rouge, and really wants to make that run, but I think he lifted too much. I would have gotten right up under that wing and hopefully made somebody a little bit nervous so they go a little wide and forget to look for their tree.
They break into Lacombe themselves here into the turn, the 614, continuing to try and see if he can shake Casey loose from that P7 in the last couple laps that they have. Do see Jeff Lashway in pit lane. He's serving a black flag, though. I think that's for incident limits. In fact, he must have had another wreck because he's missing the rear wing of that Porsche.
Kind of an important piece of kit you need on that car, but I'd like to, well, yeah, it's hard to say. There are a couple of races going on here. We've got Clayson closing up on Weber, but this is another good race, and this is pretty tight as well. So I'm going to try to keep an eye on one while we stick on this one, because look how close they are this time. Oh, this is going to get interesting. Now, Lervold looks like he's got good grip on those front tires, even though he's so close behind. Coming up here, nice little break, coming through here, going to make a good exit. That was a little bit wide, but I think that's going to be okay. He's not going to get any incident points for that. Working our way through Paul Frere. He is close. There could be an opportunity to pass.
It's going to feel that slipstream, but will he get shaken off when they come through Blanchimont? We've seen a couple cars that just can't withstand the dirty air. No, he holds it well, but he's still about 3/10 back. I don't think he's close enough, although under braking. Oh, I thought he was going to run into the back of that car. He's clearly a lot braver on the binders than Casey is.
Yeah, it's just a feel you get for the brakes, and some corners you have it better than others, but I think he's really got a mastery of the brakes here. Takes a pop down to the inside. It's just a look this time, and might have been a little bit of defense on that. Oh, interesting. I was going to say a little bit of a defense on that lap car, but now he's got a really good run. We're taking a look from the gearbox on board with Casey McDonald here as Lervold really makes the press. Falls off of it a bit, though, as they go through and head down the Kemmel Straight. Doesn't look like he's going to be able to close that up. I wonder if he had a little slowdown through there.
May have. Sometimes it's easy to pick those up going a little bit too wide through Radillon, but whatever the case, he has been robbed of another chance, and he's not going to get too many more because we're coming down to the last couple laps here, and Arnie Clayson's kind of in the same boat. He's going to have to attack and attack soon.
Yeah, I've been watching Arnie on my side monitor here. He has really closed this down. Now, again, with Reber having those internet connection issues, this could end up being an automatic promotion because that actually causes issues if you're driving along, especially with these cars that rely so much on downforce, and suddenly the car in front of you disappears, like we just watched right there, mid-corner. That can cause a little bit of instability for the chasing car because suddenly you've got a lot of downforce that you didn't have a minute ago. So it'll be interesting to see what the stewards decide to do here. But Clausen could make this on his own. He's down to about 6/10. This is going to get exciting in these next, about 4.5 minutes or so.
Got a little too exciting for Lervold and McDonald. They came together in Pouhon, of all places, and spun off the course. Both carried on. McDonald kept the spot. Actually, I think they... did they just swap around?
I think they just swapped positions around. I'm wondering if that was a gentleman's agreement there where,
could have been.
Okay, yeah, I caused the issue. Go ahead and take the spot. There was communication from them. They did have some radio chatter, but I didn't catch exactly what they were saying.
Yeah, not really sure Didn't sound too heated, so I don't think they were too frustrated with one another, and I didn't get a close look at it, so maybe we'll have to try and take a look later. Meanwhile, Clayson, he's fallen back a little bit. It's a full second behind Reber. I don't think this is going to cut the mustard at this point. It's going to have to
be a little tire cooling. I think he may be trying to cool those tires off to make a really good hard push on his last 2 laps. Oh, there goes Smiley around the outside. Little Buffalo Gals going on there.
Side by side through Blanchimont. That was gutsy from Smiley. He wants to make up for last race. Remember, he finished 16th. He's up 6 positions, and that's Jack Stevenson demoted 1 more. Again, that pales in comparison because Doran in his 4th place is up 11. So he's really been the hard charger of this whole race. Oh, and unfortunately, even if there wasn't a gentleman's agreement for Lervold, the stewards did not like what they saw. He's been given a black flag.
Ooh, black flag. That's going to be a drive-through. That's going to push him way down the field. Looks like he's going to go ahead and serve it now. Probably lose 2, maybe 3 positions out of that. But, you know, you give the position back, sometimes it's just not enough. But meanwhile, back up front with Scott Durham, he's holding on to a nice chunk of a lead. He's at about 16 seconds here. That's quite a lead to have. And I think we saw a similar lead in the pro race last week. And yeah, it's that 16-second gap seems to kind of be actually when I raced here in one of the leagues I race in the younger cousin of this car in the 992 Cup. I think I also had about a 16, 17-second gap when I won that one.
How many have you won since then, though?
Yeah, way to rub it in. Thanks. Yeah, I will claim I had a surgery. I had 2 surgeries since then, so I'm gonna go on that one.
Yes, you have a really good excuse on that one, honestly. But right now, Durham doesn't have any excuse if he loses this one. He's got such a big lead. All he has to do is keep it on the track from here. Just keep it on the island and run it home. That's not even the car that he's racing that you see in the background behind him. Reber's 15 seconds behind. That's a lapped car there that was in our screenshot. Clayson, he's back down to 0.6 of a second behind Reber. So he could maybe try and do something here. I'm kind of amazed that they haven't told Reber to come in. It's been sporadic, but they still take, they're very harsh usually if you're blinking in this series. So he's gotten away very lucky.
Yeah, Arnie is really pushing this up. He is down to about a half a second, and he's been making up time coming around here because Reber has generally been running a little bit wider through the arc, and it doesn't take much, but still holding on to right at half a second. Now, coming down the hill here, this is where things start to get interesting, and I wonder if Arnie is trying to watch out for those incident points and save them up for a big push on that last lap, because he did not push that exit as hard as he had been.
Well, this is the last lap, so if he's got some to use, now's the time to use them. He might be too close that he can't do anything right now. We got to remember that you can get a little bit too tight there at the end. You can't throw away the race at the final lap because you can still get that penalty, and while you can't serve it, it winds up as a time penalty. And let's see, 13 seconds. He might still stay in third if that's the case. I'm not sure how much it gives you, but I wouldn't risk it, frankly, because he's got a podium on his hands. Meanwhile, Scott Durham on the top step of that podium, looking like he is going to bring himself back into things. Remember, he missed the first 2 rounds, didn't have the greatest of races at Suzuka, but when he showed up at Spa, he is going to go back-to-back for the wins in dominant fashion. On top of it all, he took the pole position. It's a clean sweep for the number 83 here at Spa-Francorchamps. Scott Durham takes the win.
And meanwhile, behind him, here is the race. There is Jonathan Reber holding on to P2. Gets the power down coming out of the corner. Shorts it a little bit. No need to really to push out as far as he could have there, because that could have made the car a little unstable, but crosses the line in P2. Right behind him, Arnie Klassen.
Only battles we've got coming to the line, honestly, is down for those that are a lap down. Schussler, Schrock, and Goulet and Eskridge are all nose to tail. This is essentially for 15th position. Oh, and there goes Eskridge.
Yeah, Eskridge goes around there, but it looks like Schrock is going to hold on to the pointy end of this little group. Gets an interesting line going into that final corner. Gets powered out, comes on out, and looks like he is going to take P15 there.
And Schussler holds on to 16th, Goulet 17th, and poor Lisa Eskridge at the tail of that train gave up opportunities with that spin right at the end. Stevenson's within 2 seconds of Smiley, but that's really stretching it, looking for battles here. Here is Casey McDonald, who is going to finish exactly where he started in 7th, so can't be too upset to at least stay neutral at the end. Lidback winds up with 8th where he started, but Smiley was up 7 and Stevenson up 9. Nice little run from the pair of them. That, I think, is going to wrap up our coverage, but we're not done yet with the show. We'll have the unofficial results here shortly, as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Break a little earlier if that's going to be the case. He's actually got a nose ahead as they come down into the braking zone. He's going to do it the hard way.
If you're a Porsche owner looking for reliable, convenient service without leaving the comfort of your home or office, look no further and take advantage of the Exchange at Home complimentary pickup and drop-off service exclusively at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. At the Porsche Exchange, it's all about creating a legendary ownership experience that embodies our guest lifestyle. Our Porsche service team utilizes cutting-edge technology that delivers a transparent service visit and keeps us in constant contact with our guests. And I can't think of anyone more qualified to work on your Porsche, new or classic, than our Porsche certified technicians. Whether you're a longtime guest or new to our dealership, I welcome you to experience legendary at the Porsche Exchange.
Welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps. We just watched Event 4 in Series 10 for the PCA Sim Racing Series, and Scott Durham took the win from pole in both races, sprint and feature. Just swept it the whole way through. Jonathan Reber was behind him by 15 seconds, but he climbed up from 5th. And as we said earlier in this broadcast, he kept it clean where others did not, and that was the difference. As Clayson wound up 3rd, he could have maybe been fighting for the win, but just couldn't hold it down. As Mark Doran, who had a bad sprint race, climbed up from 15th to finish 4th. David Palmer was P5, bit of a spin. Took away a chance for him to take a 2nd place. Kevin Schultz was 6th behind him, and Casey McDonald finished 7th. And it was Alex Lidback finishing P8, Andrew Smiley 9th, and Jack Stevenson up 9 spots to get a top 10.
In P11, Johan Nye having a pretty decent race with Randy Lervold trying to stick real close behind him. Jeff Lashaway taking 13th. Now 1 lap down, there was Jeremy Main along with Tim Schrock. We were watching the race right there at the end with Schussler and Goulet. Lisa Eskridge, that unfortunate spin on that last lap, also part of that battle. Andy McCune also 1 lap down, and then 2 laps down was Robert Benson.
So we have Scott Durham just showing up in time to talk to us about this race. We'll see if he has anything interesting to say about it, because it felt pretty easy from our perspective, but we'll see if it was from his. Scott, a 15-second lead on that feature race. You took the pole. You took both wins. Were there, other than that opening drama into the first corner, was there really any problems that you experienced? We might not have Scott mic'd up properly. Scott, this is Joe Peak up in the booth. You got a copy? Well, maybe we'll have to talk to Scott in a little bit. We'll give him a second here to see if he can get his mic ready and working. Did see him fiddling with things a little bit. Scott, we'll give you one more opportunity. You got a copy? Nope, looks like we don't. All right, then. I do believe that in the meantime, Michael has caught up with Jonathan Reber. And let's see if the cool and steady approach is what he was trying for.
Yeah, so Jonathan, that's a pretty good run. Up 3 positions in the feature race here. Nicely done, and just kind of put your nose to the grindstone and make your way through the field. How did it feel?
Petrifying, the entire thing, to be perfectly honest with you. I have, in all my practices, like 1 lap in 10 Eau Rouge would go horribly wrong, and 1 lap in 10 Blanchimont would go horribly wrong. So I was hoping this race would be 9 laps long, but unfortunately it wasn't. So I was just being a bit overly cautious, but I think just a few people had some incidents around me, which made the difference.
So we were noting that you were having some issues with internet, and it was enough where I don't think it caused too much of a problem for people around you, but that blinking in and out, were you noticing that at all? I'm guessing no.
No, not at all. No, I had no idea, but I'll have to obviously look and see if I can do something to fix that for next time. But no, everything seemed fine from my side. I didn't have any issues at all.
That's good, because you put on a really good race.
In that case, apologies to everyone if it caused problems. So sorry about that.
Yeah, it didn't look like it was too much of an issue for those around you, although it looked like Arnie was trying to make a run at the end. I don't think the loss of aero, or the regaining of aero, as it were, caused him any issues. So you guys had a really good race, though. He was catching up to you there at the end, and then opened it back up, and it looked like maybe saving some tires to make a big run. Was that part of that getting nervous at the end there?
Yeah, the tires were definitely getting greasier at the end. There was the whole thing was getting a bit more slippery. Just certain corners where before you could kind of full throttle through the apex and out the other side, you realized you just couldn't do it anymore. So I didn't take any tires at the pit stops. I don't know if anybody else did. I know a lot of people did in the other races, but obviously they're 20 minutes longer. So maybe that's the reason. But yeah, towards the end, definitely getting a bit skittish. I think I had some time on in the kind of middle of the lap. I was kind of pulling away a bit, but then yeah, he was getting me at the end of it again. So, and after Eau Rouge and the straight of the Kemble Straight, I was expecting him past me for the last few laps, but he didn't quite make it. So.
Yeah, it looked like going into La Source, he was a little better under braking, but you were better coming off of that corner, which is what really saved the bacon heading down that long straightaway, because as you well know, it is pretty much a straight from La Source all the way down to the end of Kemmel Straight. So you held on to it quite beautifully. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So who do you have to thank for your P2 today?
I have to thank JS, a friend of mine back in the UK, who designed the livery for me for today. So that definitely gave me 0.3 seconds a lap. So I'd like to thank him.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, at least. And to my wife, who I think I thanked at the end of the first race, when, and apologies for all my swearing. This one has been way worse. So I need to say sorry to her yet again for having to put up with me doing that. But yeah, it's been great, though. It's been great. Looking forward to Interlagos, and thanks to all of our sponsors as well, Porsche Exchange and so on. It's great of you to support us.
Well, that was your P2, Jonathan Reber. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to Joe to see if we've got Scott Durham.
Yeah, I can hear him now. Scott, congratulations on the win. Glad to hear your voice. Other than your small little problem on lap 1 of the sprint, was there any other dramas?
There was a little bit of dramas. That's one of the things I'm working hardest on, is just consistency in a real car. I really never had a lot of brain farts particularly or anything like that, but for some reason in this, I do a little bit, which showed right up, going into the first little set of turns up there after Eau Rouge and that, where I smoked through there, but I was able to hold it together enough, and I think I probably messed up whoever was behind me. And then from then on, got my concentration going, and that helped a lot. That's one of the things I'm working on most is just keeping the concentration that I need.
You come in having missed the first two events, so you're kind of on the back foot compared to everybody else. Considering how dominant you were in this race, do you feel like you kind of found your feet?
A little bit. I mean, I just because of my work schedule, every other race on the Thursday night that I was out of town was the Thursday night of the race. As it worked out, then maybe the next week I'd be home, but it wasn't our race, so I was able to do Suzuka, and started out okay there, and then just completely just a complete bonehead move, really embarrassed myself and messed up some guys' races and stuff. So today my main goal was just to not mess anybody's race up, and if I needed to be a little slower than I possibly could be, it was more important to be disciplined and on the track and not mess anybody else up than it was being a rock star and going out in flames.
Well, I'd say, considering your results, you can consider that a rock star performance. Do you think you can repeat that at Interlagos? Will you be able to be at Interlagos?
I think I'm going to be able to be there. I'm going to have to work on the track. Never driven it before. I've driven Spa a little bit, so that helps a little. That's one of the things. I've got a good buddy here in town that's a good pro racer with PCA and that has helped me out a lot with this. And doing these races, and we're doing a team thing together, really forces me to spend a lot of time on each of the tracks, and it takes a little while to get up to speed. Things that I've actually driven in the real world, I'm much better at, but some of these I'm with some of the tutorials that the guys are putting out and stuff like that, I'm trying to catch up.
Well, again, phenomenal job. Who helped put you in victory lane tonight?
Rich Minkler is my mentor, my god. So he just told me to be patient, which is what I was trying to do. And I got some lucky breaks here today. I think Mr. Clausen, who was behind me, I got a 1.6 second or a 1.8 second penalty in Eau Rouge, and so I had to give that back. And at the time, I had about 2 seconds on him or so. So, I basically had to let him catch right up. And then, unfortunately for him, right after that, coming out of I think it was about turn 7. I think he kind of looped it a little bit. I think, which I do all the time. You get caught up to somebody you've been chasing, and then you get a little bit of buck fever, and you get just a hair quicker on the throttle than you were. And then that kind of gave me a little bit of a respite and a little bit of traffic. So those two things helped a lot. If not for that, I think he would have been all over me.
Well, again, that was our winner, Scott Durham, in the number 83. So I think that will take us to Arnie Clayson, who did wind up third in the end, even though he had a little bit of a shot at the lead there, as we heard mentioned briefly. Arnie, probably a little bit disappointing, but considering you came into the second in points and James wasn't here, are you satisfied with a P2 and P3?
Pretty much. I mean, it was a very greasy track from beginning to end, and the tires were not really getting happier. I noticed that I was just not catching up with Scott, and I figured I need to take tires, and hey, I have good separation to the guys behind me, and I jinxed myself with that and went for a spin. And so I only took front tires because I had Jonathan and David too close behind me. And at the end, I could not put power down coming out of the bus stop because the tires in the back were just gone.
You seem to perform pretty decently, though, with these GT3Rs. Obviously, we've got at least one next up in the season when we head off to Hockenheim for Event 6. Do you feel like you'll be able to get more podiums when we head there, or do you think you'll be able to be just as strong in some of the other cars?
I think I'm strongest still in the GT4 and weakest in the Cup car. So I think Hockenheim is going to be okay. I think it's a good track for the GT3 car. It's a track that can use some traction control and ABS. So I think it'll be a good race.
Yeah, no doubt. And speaking of a good race, man, we saw plenty of action out there today, kind of up and down the order. Do you like these ones where there's a lot going on, or do you prefer it to be a nice, dull race that you can bring it home?
No, I like where there's a whole lot of going on because it adds a little bit more strategy. It's nice when you have some lap traffic as well, because it gives you that extra chance of maybe I get luckier than the guy in front of me going past the back markers. So yeah, it's a lot of fun that way.
Well, again, congratulations. Well done. Anybody you want to thank before you go?
Oh, thanks to our sponsors, Sports Exchange, and well, definitely Six Sigma, although this track was not a friend to the Clean Driver award.
It never is. It never is. It's the only track where I've done an endurance race and I lost safety ratings. So that was Artie Clayson, our third place finisher in the feature, second in the sprint as well, which is going to wrap us up. So make sure and join us when we go to Interlagos. That'll be on May 10th at 9:25 p.m. Eastern when we return for the club class here in just a couple days. We'd like to thank our sponsors as well for Series 10, which includes the Porsche Exchange and Six Sigma Sim Racing. Big thanks to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, and a huge thanks to our team tonight, Michael, Ryan, Cameron, and Dougie. None of this is possible without those behind the scenes of Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and John Theater. And also thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. I'm Joe Peak, and I'll see you on the track.